The Warriors can't lose. The Heat can't win. Which superstars does Haize trust more in the playoffs? And leave the Mavs alone. All that and more on Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On NBA, your daily source for all things NBA from the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for joining us and making us part of your day, being an everyday or hanging out with us Monday through Friday. We do appreciate you guys being part of our community. Today's show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. My name is Matt Moore. I am the host of Locked On Nuggets. And I'm joined by Haize from Locked On Bulls. Doug Branson's on assignment trying to find an elder god to pray to get Cooper Flagg. I wish him all the luck in the world. On today's show, we're going to talk about PJ Washington wanting the fans to leave the Mavs alone. We're going to talk about how the Heat cannot catch a break. I'm going to ask Haize which superstar he trusts more in the playoffs, and I got some tough ones for him to parse through. But we start here, Haize. After Golden State's win over the Knicks on Saturday, they are now 15-1 with Jimmy Buckets. Jimmy Butler and the Warriors are 15-1. They did take a loss with when he was out versus the Philadelphia 76ers. You and I were skeptical about after their hot start to start the season. You and I were a little skeptical after they made the trade. We were like, they'll be better, but we'll see. We were skeptical last week. We're like, okay, but like the schedule is kind of weak. And it still has been pretty weak, but are you starting to believe that maybe something unbelievable is happening in Golden State?
Yeah, I am starting to believe it. I think that, I'm still not necessarily picking them to like win the Western Conference Finals or anything, but I do think that this is going to be a team. They're going to disrupt the Western Conference playoffs. I definitely believe that. I would not be surprised if they get a round one upset if you even look at it that way. They're just playing basketball at such a good level right now. And we've already seen what a motivated Jimmy Butler can do. And it seems like he's given that team a new energy. And you get a motivated Jimmy, Draymond, and Steph all on the same page on a playoff run to prove people wrong. That's a dangerous combination, I think, against any potential team. Right now, they face off against the Denver Nuggets. That could, if that ends up being the case, that could be a pretty interesting battle there.
Yeah, since the trade deadline, the Warriors are 5th in offense, 2nd in defense, and if they face off against the Nuggets, well, they're going to score because the Nuggets can't stop absolutely anybody. Question would come about their defense. I think what's interesting here is, so like every game, it seems like there's a different storyline. They face off against one team, and it's Draymond Green with 23 points. They get big contributions from Quentin Post and Guy Santos. They face off against the Knicks on Saturday. Steph goes for 28 on 8 of 20. They get 18 from Moses Moody has been playing absolutely out of his mind. He's been playing so well since he joined the starting lineup. They've really gotten these really good contributions. They have like a bunch of different options for them to kind of go to, which I think is makes them like a really dangerous team. And I think that's going to be one of the things that kind of watch here is, okay, they've been able to get different contributions in the regular season. When the playoffs come, can they get these contributions from Guy Santos? Can they get these contributions from Quentin Post? Buddy Hield, who I think is actually like he's pretty far down in the rotation. Like, he only played 14 minutes on Saturday versus the Knicks. Like, he's not necessarily a playoff riser. That you've got guys that are playoff risers, and I think Jimmy, obviously, Steph to a degree, right? Like, it's like, how is Steph not a playoff riser? If you look back at the history of Steph's career in the playoffs, it's largely like, yeah, he's still like really, 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 really good. Like, he's not like, oh my God. The difference with Jimmy is Jimmy in the regular season is like really good player. And in the playoffs, he's a god. He is unstoppable. So I have kind of these questions. They've got versatility, which is good. But I do think it's going to be interesting. What's the first round matchup that you think would be most interesting for the Warriors? What's like the one that would be most? Everyone wants to see Lakers Warriors again because nobody gets tired of Steph and LeBron going at it. But what's like the first round matchup from a basketball standpoint that you think would be really interesting?
Yeah, the Lakers definitely. I do think Denver and Golden State would definitely be fun to watch as well. But the one that I would love to see for the Golden State Warriors, and I don't know if it can happen. I don't know where the seeding is going to fall if it would work out. Actually, the Houston Rockets and Golden State Warriors would be one that I think is extremely fun because of the adjustments that the Rockets can make defensively. old versus new in a lot of ways. In that case, the coaching aspect too, really good coaches that can make that a really good, interesting battle as well. So the Rockets would be probably my dream scenario to watch, just for my own personal enjoyment for the Golden State Warriors.
I was going to say Rockets as well, and that's very possible if it winds up in the 3-6. That's a very possible first round matchup as far as how this could wind up with where Houston's at. Houston's kind of stabilizing and is right there for the 2 and 3 seed. That would be like a really fascinating one. You got Dylan Brooks versus Draymond Green, always a good time. You got the Rockets physicality. The Rockets are a better team, but they don't have the kind of top firepower. And I think if you're the Warriors, you got to feel like, hey, we're not the better team on the season, but we're the better team right now after the Jimmy trade. Butler, I think, would be a really interesting. I would love to see Amen Thompson versus Steph Curry trying to guard him. I like all those kind of things. The pressure that he would put on Şengün and Jalen Green, like that'd be a very baptism by fire moment for those guys in the playoffs. That'd be a really fantastic matchup. In the Warriors win over the Knicks, the Steve Kerr passed Al Attles for being the winningest coach in Warriors history, his 558th regular season victory. Kerr, I think, has taken some heat over the last couple of seasons because they fell out of championship contention. And then somehow his Olympics run is seen as a failure, despite the fact that they won the gold medal pretty comfortably. I want to ask you, Kev, where do you put Kerr when you think about the all-time coaches?
Oh, Kerr is definitely up there. I think easily probably top when you look at the success rate and what he's been able to do, the amount of winning that they've done. Then when you pair in the internationals, well, not international, Olympic coaching as well, like Steve Kerr's definitely top 10, top 12 at least. I'd have to sit there and go through each one, but Kerr's definitely. I don't think you can make a case for him not being in the top 10 coaches of all time, in my opinion. He's just had that amount of success. No, he hasn't coached in a bunch of places, and he hasn't coached as long as like a Greg Popovich, but the success that he's had over his run has just been amazing. The way he's been able to develop players, the different types of teams he's done it with. Like there have been 3 different types of Golden State Warriors teams. He won titles with all 3 of those, so he definitely has to be up there.
4 titles, the all-time record for wins in a season, which I think is like everyone just breezes past that.
Yeah.
Won a title being number 1 in defense and number 1 in pace, which I think is exceptionally difficult to do. That was the 2015 Warriors. Has developed a lot of talent, has been a good steward of the game, has been a good figure for the league. I would say, I was thinking about this and I was like, all right, so I would have Pop 1, I would have Red Auerbach 2, I would have Phil 3, and like that's where Riley 4, and then I think that's where it starts to get interesting. And like, there's a lot of coaches we could put on this list, but I do think it's like a really interesting question of, I think what Kerr has gotten in terms of the peak performance, not for the longevity or the number of seasons or the consistency, but when Kerr's teams are good, they're great. And maybe that's the most promising thing about this Warriors season. Coming up, we're going to talk about which superstars we trust more in the playoffs. I got a whole list for them to go head to head and put Haize to the test. We'll do that when we come back here on Locked On NBA. Today's show is brought to you by DoorDash. NBA fans, get ready. They swoosh, you save. Thanks to Dash Pass, every time a player drops 50 or more points in the game, you score a huge deal the next day. It's simple. When any player scores 50 or more in a game during the 24-25 NBA regular season, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order, up to $10 off the next day from noon to midnight. So after an epic 50-point performance, you can celebrate by ordering wings, pizza, or burgers from your favorite spot, delivered straight to your door. Sign up for Dash Pass and get ready to save. When any player scores 50 or more in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order the next day, up to $10 off. Just use promo code NBA50 from noon until midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants. You must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. We're also brought to you today by FanDuel. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you a chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's 200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. I like Houston. I think Houston's very live to be able to pull this off. I think that they've got the profile that fits the kind of team that can make a tournament run. So I'll be betting on Houston to win the bracket. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. We'll be right back on Locked On NBA. Back here on Locked On NBA. Thanks for joining us and being with us here on a Monday. Haize from Locked On Bulls. I'm Locked On Nuggets as Matt Moore. Doug Branson is out on assignment today trying to find a 90s Hornets starter jacket. That's a lie. He's got like 7 of them. That's like Doug's entire closet is just Hornets starter jackets. All right. So I had this idea to ask you, which superstars do you trust more in the playoffs? I thought this would be a good segment because at the start of the year, one of the things that you said about the Cavs is you're like, I just don't trust Donovan Mitchell. Like, I just don't trust him. And it's been a good regular season, but I think we got to have those kind of questions. So I wanted to go through a couple and get your sense of who you trust more. So I'm going to start you off with a pretty tough one. Who do you trust more in a playoff series, Jimmy Butler or Anthony Edwards?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Man, I will say Jimmy Butler mainly because of the experience. Anthony Edwards is clearly the better player right now. But I still say Jimmy Butler. I think I could trust him to have that two-way ability. I think he's going to attack. And I think that Jimmy right now, I would trust him to do more things more consistently than Anthony Edwards would in the playoffs right now.
It's interesting because I kind of have the same criticism of both of these guys, which is that their peaks are extremely high. But if you look at the follow-up game to their huge performances, there's a big drop-off. They're not going to be like 50 and then 30, which is really good. It's like 45, 20. And that drop-off, I think, is pretty significant. Jimmy's ability to manipulate the defense a little bit better, I think, just because the experience does matter here. So I want to give Butler the edge, but I'm going to go with Ant because of the three-point shot that he's added. When you're able to kind of bend the court the way that Ant is now, I think it gives him another dimension. And the experience he had last year of how hard the Nuggets trapped him in that second-round series, I think will do him wonders going into these playoffs. So I'm going to go with Ant right now. I trust Ant more than even Jimmy Butler. Here's a great one. MVP type battle. Not Shai versus Jokic. I'm going to give you this one. Shai versus Luka. Who do you trust more in a playoff series?
Shai. Mainly because of the defense. I trust Shai more because whatever I need, whether it's offense, whether it's defense, whether it's make a big stop, get a steal, a rebound, I think I trust Shai right now to do more of those things. No real slight to Luka here. It's just I think Shai's playing clearly at an MVP level right now, and I think he has more momentum right now. I trust Shai.
I think this one's really close. Shai is a much more efficient scorer. Like kind of under the radar thing about Luka is his actual shooting percentages do not wow you. He does not have like phenomenal efficiency. So there's a lot, like he misses a lot of shots. He just does. Now he makes a lot of high profile ones. He makes a lot of huge shots where you're just like, oh man. And ones that turn momentum or stop momentum or push momentum. I think Luke is one of the best in the league at it. Luke is also a much better passer. Shai's like, I've been doing a lot of the film on Shai, and like he's a good passer. Totally fine. I'm not like wowed by anything that Shai really does passing wise, unless it's in transition. He's got some pretty sick bounce passes that he's able to get on the outlet. But I'm going to go with Shai. I agree with you on the defense, and I think that the shot making is actually a little bit better from Shai consistently. Luka's best shots, I think, are very loud, but I'll trust Shai a little bit more there. Speaking of MVPs, let's give at least one MVP. Actually, two. At least two MVPs and at least one title. Let's do Jokic versus Giannis.
Man, I mean, come on. The season that Jokic is having, and one of the all-time great seasons, and what he's the complete engine and motor of that team. I need to tell you that. I'd say Jokic right now. Not to say that Giannis is having a great season as well, but Jokic, I just trust him, especially that offense. I think he can get the most out of players around him more than Giannis can. I'll go Jokic here.
Jokic's defense is so bad this year. It's so bad this year. to the point where like that needs to matter a lot when I start evaluating Giannis versus him. And you have the fact that Jokic like struggled versus Rudy Gobert and really had some letdown games in that Wolves series. But Giannis, I think, is easier to kind of scheme against. You can do kind of everyone talks about building a wall. It's less of a wall and it's more of like a 3 different layers system where it's like they set up a system where there's one guy in front, and then they bring help with the nail and then one guy down low. I'll go Yoke, but boy, this one's razor thin for me, quite honestly, even as good as Jokic is in the playoffs. I love this one, and I want to get your thoughts on it. Donovan Mitchell versus Jalen Brunson.
Ooh, Donovan Mitchell, and that's crazy for me considering you just quoted me as saying earlier in the season I said I don't trust him. Jalen Brunson's great, but I think Donovan Mitchell just has not only a better supporting staff, but I think that what he's shown this year as far as patience and understanding when in the ebbs and flows of the game to take over versus when to facilitate and allow the other players to go off has been really tremendous this year. So I'll say Donovan Mitchell here.
I'm gonna go with Brunson. I think he's a playoff killer, man. Now Mitchell's got 250 spots in the playoffs, and he was phenomenal even 2 years ago. Like he's a guy that has stepped up and been like he's consistently great. But man, I feel like Jalen takes over these games. I just feel like in the playoffs, Brunson is a guy that I don't know how he does it at his size. He just does. He takes over games. I'll say Brunson. But again, I think this one is razor thin, and it's a really good kind of comparison. And last one, let's do a classic. Right now, who do you trust more, Steph Curry or LeBron James?
Ooh, man. That is a difficult question. I'll say Steph. I think Steph's game is just LeBron's still having an amazing season, make no mistake about it. We know that he's slowed down some defensively. Also, the turnovers have been a little bit of a thing for LeBron James this year. I think that Steph is still so good at the things that he does well, especially when he's able to play off players like he can at times. So I'm gonna say Steph. I know that's probably blasphemy. No shade to LeBron, but I trust Steph a little bit more.
I don't know if it can really be shade. He's 40, man's 40. That's it. I'll go with LeBron because if it's game 6 and you're facing elimination, night to night over the course of those 6 games, I trust Steph Curry more. But if it's game 6 and you absolutely have to have a monster game, I trust LeBron. That's where I get to. I still think that for one game, he can muster it and still have an amazing performance. Well, that was fun. We should do more of those sometime and drag Doug back into this sometime as well. Coming up next, the Heat are spiraling. What does this mean for their future? And PJ Washington wants Mavs fans to leave the Mavs alone. We'll talk about that coming up on Locked On NBA. Today's show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Like every day I do that. Between dining out, online shopping, and entertaining, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. When you start using Monarch, you're going to realize just how much you were spending on food delivery. And now you can budget smarter and save more. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. And now a message from Locked On NBA.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
Final segment here on a Monday for Locked On NBA. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you guys being with us. Haize is with me. I'm Matt Moore. Appreciate you guys being along for the ride. Haize, the heater, it's bad. It has gotten very bad very quickly. They cannot win. They are helpless right now. Tyler, I was listening to Locked On Heat. Like Tyler Hero is gassed. They don't have anything left. They've slid down to the 9. They've lost 7 in a row. How bad do you think this is going to get for Miami? They are still 6 games above the Raptors, who I want to talk about in a second. But very unlikely that the Heat miss the play-in tournament. But like, how is this going to end with how bad this is getting? Oh, by the way, Jimmy's coming to town soon.
Yeah, this is going to get ugly. It is already ugly. Lose 7 games in a row is already ugly. And despite them having like some initial kind of flashes early where it's like, okay, maybe we can see where this is going to work when they get some time together, like it's completely falling apart. They don't have a good offense. They don't look connected on offense. There's no rhythm or anything like that. Like this team is struggling. And I don't know if it stops. And the only thing that may keep them in the play-in overall is just the fact that the teams below them aren't winning really good right now. I think the Raptors won a couple of games in a row, so we'll see what happens there. But I don't know how to correct this. I've said it before. I know I said this a couple of episodes ago. Like, unless unless Pat Riley finally makes the decision to make a tough decision in regard to the direction of this team, this is just where they're going to be for a while. Like, I don't know if this thing fixes itself. Now, maybe Pat Riley can convince somebody to come. He's a salesman. He can always do some things, but this is not only seems like the end of that Heat culture. It seems like for a team that's been around the playoffs for a long time, that next season is probably going to be the end of that unless they do something different.
I don't want to bury him because I feel like they're not the Lakers. Nobody's the Lakers, but we buried the Lakers and we're like, hey, this is just where you are. And then it's like, or Nico Harrison could just give you Luka Doncic. How about that? So it's like we don't know what the plot twists are going to be about what comes next, about if another superstar is finally going to be like, yes, Miami is where I want to go. I want to buy in the Heat culture. They've chased Giannis forever. They've been after him for, I think, what feels like a decade. They've been trying to get Giannis. I feel like until Riley says he's hanging it up, they're just going to keep chasing that kind of pursuit. They're just going to want to try and pursue those superstars. And I think it's going to take an entire regime change. It might even take a new ownership group, to be perfectly honest, for them to ever really commit to a rebuild by focusing on the draft. That said, like, what if they miss the playoffs and then just like wind up winning the lottery? That would also be pretty funny, is like they accidentally wind up with Cooper Flagg. That'd be very funny.
Yeah, they have that, and then they have Golden State's pick this year too, which is only top 10 protected. So the Miami Heat can potentially walk into this draft with 2 picks if they fall out of the playoffs and into the lottery to keep their own pick, which is still slim chances, but maybe that's what they're looking for.
Yeah, I mentioned the Raptors, who are there. That would be the team that would knock out the Heat for the play-in tournament. I just want to shout out Toronto. The tanking that they have done has been just amazing, because what they've done is they've been like, hey, Scotty Barnes is playing. We're not sitting him. No, we're here to win for the first 40 minutes. And then we're going to sit him. Oh, he just got tired. You're just giving him a break. We think we can win with somebody else. There was a sequence late in the game yesterday. They were down 1 to Portland with like 30 seconds left. They ran off 15 seconds off the clock and then fouled. It was amazing. I mean, it's the tanking that is going on is next level from those guys. The Raptors and the Jazz have had the best tanking approaches I've seen in the league. Have you seen what the Jazz have done?
No, I haven't watched any Jazz. I'm not even going to much Jazz basketball at all.
He's like, why are you asking me about the Jazz? Here's what the Jazz are doing. When they play the good teams, they play everybody. You get to see Lord Markkanen's out there. They're playing everybody because they'll lose anyway. And then when they face the really bad teams, what do you know? Everybody's got a hamstring, got to sit. They're out tonight. It's like we have seen the most ethical tanking I think we're ever going to see. If there's such a thing as ethical tanking, that I think is absolutely terrific. By the way, Miami's first round pick goes to OKC this year, but it's protected 1 to 14.
Yeah. So
seems no. They need to make sure they do. They need to make sure they do not make the playoffs.
Exactly
what that needs to happen.
The problem is there's so many teams around that they have I think 3 out of the bottom 4 teams in the East all have like weird protections on their pick, except for the Bulls now. So it'd be weird to see how that shakes out.
Yeah. Final thing here for a Monday, PJ Washington was at the free throw line over the weekend. And while he was shooting a free throw for the Dallas Mavericks, a fan yelled out, "Fire Nico," as those chants have shown up at places like Medieval Times, at hockey games, random events throughout. I'm pretty sure that there's going to be one at like the Chamber of Commerce in Dallas. That's how bad it is. After the game, Washington went absolutely not ballistic. He was pretty upset with the Mavs fans and was like, "I get it. It was tough on everybody, but you got to get over it. We're still trying to compete." And like it's taken away from the home court advantage with how much of a distraction it is. You should not have to worry about being distracted by your own fans when you're at the free throw line. So what are your thoughts on PJ Washington's plea for Mavericks fans to give them a break?
I mean, I think the players didn't choose to trade Luka, right? Like they're still out there trying to compete, they're trying to play. So I completely understand it. Like the players didn't make this choice. They're just out there trying to do their jobs the best to their ability and dealing with it. And I get it. I get the place where Dallas fans are. They have the right to be upset. They have the right to talk about Nico Harrison all that they want. But you have to feel for these players that are just out there trying to, like I said, do their job, and it's turning into a complete crap show every time that they take the court in every city because everybody wants to, rightfully so, dunk on Nico Harrison. Like Nico just needs to sit down. I hope he's not traveling with the team. It would almost be more disrespectful to what his players have to go through to travel with the team. Like, but yeah, I completely feel and sympathize with where PJ Washington's coming from.
Washington said, "All that Fire Nico stuff, we're sick and tired of hearing it. We just want to go out there and play. We want the fans to support us no matter who's on the floor." That's just how I feel about it. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sympathetic to PJ here. I think that Mavericks fans, you shouldn't have to do this. It's not fair that you have to do this. Everybody's really sympathetic for you about your situation and losing Luka Doncic. Like everybody's like, "Oh man," even Lakers fans are like, "Oh man, I'm sorry, Mavs fans, that sucks." Not very sincerely because they're Lakers fans, but still they're pretty kind about it. The thing though is you kind of have to decide, are you a Mavericks fan or are you a Luka Doncic fan? And for a lot of people in the NBA, like that's difficult because players are such a big part of fandom in the NBA. So I think it's like a really tough question, but at some level, I do think you have to ask yourself this, like, are you going to continue to root for the team or are you not? And if you're going to go to the games, you should cheer for your team. And you should appreciate the fact that those guys are still competing for you. I did like Max Christie, who came over in the Doncic trade, and what he said about it. He said, "Definitely not pleasant to hear, but I can't really comment much on that, to be honest." He said, "We get paid a lot of money just to play basketball. So for us, we have little things like that may be distracting and whatnot. It shouldn't affect us. We're professionals. We're the best of what we do in the sport. Distractions are going to be there, and we got to be able to move forward and move past them and not let those affect us." Props to Max Christie for just keeping it a buck. Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
That's going to do it for Locked On NBA. Appreciate you guys being with us here on a Monday. Doug Branson should be back tomorrow with whatever dark power he has harnessed to try and get the Hornets a good player. You can catch Haize on Locked On Bulls with Pat the Designer. It's a great show. Go check that out. You can catch me at Locked On Nuggets. We'll see you guys again tomorrow. Thanks for joining us on Locked On NBA.